Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to this latest edition of Purdue Engineering Live, our series of live videos, or our live broadcast rather, with current students here across Purdue Engineering for our admitted students and families. Talk more about what it's like here, offer you all the chance to ask questions of our students. My name is Ari Swartz. I'm the Assistant Director for the Office of Future Engineers. We are the outreach extension of the College of Engineering, putting on all these Engineering Live sessions. This is the penultimate, if you will, broadcast. We have just one more after this. It'll be next Tuesday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. That'll be our last minute Q&A. So if you're still on the fence about where you want to go, it's a great time to ask any of those last minute questions you might have. Or if you've already committed to Purdue and you just have some more questions about what to expect this fall or the summer if you're doing an early start. It's a great opportunity to ask some questions there too. So hopefully you can join us next week as well. Tonight's topic though is student life. So I've got 3 current students here on our panel that I'm going to have them introduce themselves here in a moment. And we just want to talk about, the life outside of classes. What are some of the things you can do on campus, outside of campus? What's the scene kind of like away from classes? Because there's a lot more to college, obviously, than just classes and homework. So we want to focus on kind of the fun stuff tonight. So I'll have my students introduce themselves. We'll go in alphabetical order here. So Brianna, we'll start with you.
Hi everyone, my name is Brianne and I'm a junior in mechanical engineering right now. And on campus, I'm involved in Greek life as well as the Purdue Student Engineering Foundation, which is how I know Jade and Teddy here as well. I'm also part of the Purdue Student Sustainability Council, so doing some volunteer work on campus to promote sustainability. And I have taught religious education at a church on campus and been involved in the church on campus as well.
Awesome. Jade, how about you?
Hi guys, my name is Jade Weber and I am a senior in biomedical engineering with a minor in Spanish. I'm from right around St. Louis, Missouri, and on campus I'm also involved with PSEF along with these two. Like Brianne said, I'm involved with Mortar Board, which is basically the college equivalent of a National Honor Society for high school, and I've studied abroad and done epics. So.
Awesome. And last but not least, Teddy.
All right. Hello, everyone. So my name is Teddy Sargasketter, and I'm a current graduate student in industrial engineering, but I did my undergrad also at Purdue in mechanical engineering. On campus, in addition to PSEF, this organization, I've also been a Purdue Mechanical Engineering Ambassador. I've been involved in Purdue Old Masters, kind of an alumni connection organization. I'm currently involved in an organization called RISE, which kind of promotes Paralympics and adaptive athletes, and also been a teaching assistant for a period of time.
Great. So before we get started with kind of the content, just wanted to point out a couple of other things. So no matter which way you're tuning in tonight here on Teams, we have a Q&A platform. So if it didn't pop up automatically off to the right of your screen, somewhere on your screen you should see like a little chat icon with a question mark in it. Bring that up. Feel free to use that to send in questions to any of our student panelists as we go throughout. So we'll be talking about our own stories, but also answering the questions you guys send in, both directly in the platform, but also here on screen too. So feel free to send in questions as you get them. I also want to point out too, I'm a Purdue alum myself. So we've got a variety of experiences here between all 4 of us. I want to start kind of at the basics, I think, go way back for our panelists here and thinking back to our freshman year. What was the first thing you got involved in at Purdue? How did you hear about it? Why did you join it? And we'll kind of go from there maybe. So I know it's been a while for all 3 of you, but anybody remember the first thing they did? Brianne?
The first thing I got involved in was Greek life because for girls, recruitment starts basically the 2nd or 3rd week of school, so it's pretty quick. And the reason I decided to join Greek life was being in engineering, which especially can be somewhat male dominated. I really wanted to find a core group of female friends that I could have as well outside of engineering. And so that's something that sort of pointed me in that direction, as well as just meeting people of different majors and sort of throughout campus outside of my major. And so that's the reason that I joined, and especially being so quick when school started, it was a great way to meet people immediately, even people who aren't in my house currently, but I met during recruitment. It was a really great opportunity to then sort of build my network of the people I know as soon as I got right on campus.
Awesome, and that's a really great just example that it's also, you know, it's one of the common questions we get is, can I be in Greek life and be an engineer? Isn't even like room for an engineer in Greek life? And obviously the answer to that is yes. Who else? Anybody else remember kind of one of the first things they got involved with on campus? Jade, go ahead.
Yeah, I was kind of default involved in EPICS, which used to stand for Engineering Projects and Community Service, if anybody doesn't know. Only used to stand for that just because a lot of non-engineers didn't want to join just because of the name, but basically the same idea. And so I did the EPICS track of the first year engineering. And so I took engineering all in one semester, and then I did 2 semesters of the EPICS class. And so by kind of default, the first thing that I was involved in was in EPICS. And so like kind of right off the bat, I was doing those real world projects that Purdue loves to hand you. And I was, you know, working with like real world project partners and doing, you know, real world design reviews and things like that. And so by default, that was kind of a nice thing to be first involved with at Purdue.
Awesome, Teddy.
And I feel like my story is maybe a little bit different than everyone else's because I actually didn't get involved in an organization at Purdue until second semester of my sophomore year. I came to Purdue and I thought that it was all kind of about academics, much more about like getting in, getting a 4.0 GPA and getting out, kind of like just a checkbox, I guess. And I actually left on co-op, so I did a co-op while I was here. And I think I realized that you need a lot more than just academics and kind of a college education. So I came back from co-op and it was made very clear to me that I like needed to get involved in something. And so my first organization was actually PSEF, which is this org. And I feel like when you traditionally think of college involvement, you kind of think of like, you know, robotics, design build test clubs, things like that. But there's so many other flavors of organizations that you can join. So I joined PSEF and then Purdue Barbell, the club powerlifting team at the same time. And it really, really made my experience a lot better and really kind of helped me feel like Purdue was my home.
Nice. So a good variety of experiences here. We've got Greek life, community service, we've got engineering outreach. So PSEF is a great opportunity to meet other fellow students as well as get to share your experiences with prospective students and families, which is why we love to have them on all these panels. So does anybody want to talk a little bit more about PSEF, what it is exactly that you all do, and if anybody's coming this fall that might be interested in learning more, how might they learn more? Where's our pitch for PSEF? Is that Brianne? Go for it, Brianne.
Yeah, I can talk about what PSEF is all about. So something that I love about the organization is that we're pretty well-rounded, so we do a lot of different things on campus. And so we have our outreach committee, which is where we do events such as this, talking to prospective students. Jade was the previous outreach director, so something that she's very familiar with. And so we interact with high school students and basically just sort of promote Purdue engineering to students who may want to come here. And so that's really a great opportunity for us to talk about what it is that we love about Purdue, because that's something that's pretty common amongst all PSEFers, is that we love what we're doing here at Purdue, both academically and outside of academics. And so it's a great opportunity to sort of share that with other people. As well as we do different things on campus for current students. So we'll hold different tables on campus. We used to do pancakes with PSEF before COVID hit, where we would make pancakes in our main engineering building and hand them out to people, and also ask for donations so we could raise money for the American Cancer Society, as well as participating in other philanthropic events such as Relay for Life. And so really just getting involved on campus in sort of a wholehearted way, as well as forming really close connections with one another. So that's something that is also very common amongst everyone, is that we all love Purdue, but then we also all love PSEF, because it really is a really tight-knit group of individuals who are all in engineering, but everyone has very different backgrounds, very different interests and career paths ahead of them. And so it's a really great opportunity to then meet other people and the amazing things that they're doing on campus, as well as what they're doing in the future. It's a great opportunity to have that mentorship available to you with really great students on campus.
Awesome, thanks. You know, as an outgoing person, I feel like it's like one of those perfect clubs to get involved in, because you get to do the outreach to like prospective students and families, which is fun for those of us that are very passionate about Purdue and our experiences here. But then you also get to meet other students on campus too, so you get to like double dip. It's pretty good stuff. So we really appreciate them joining us for all these sorts of events, all these students in PSEF. So I've seen a couple questions come in, kind of sticking with that freshman year. I know, again, ways back, around Boiler Gold Rush. What can I expect? How is it different for international students? So were any of the three of you, were any of you TLs, the team leaders for BGR? Jade, do you want to talk a little bit about BGR and what they might be able to expect?
Yeah, so I love BGR. I was a team leader, so I was the kind of student that was leading around the incoming freshmen. And in the simplest of senses, it's kind of put as college without the classes. It's you come a week before classes start. You're put into a group with, like probably 15 other students, and you have a team leader who's like already a current student. And so I was a team leader, and so I led around my little group of freshmen, and we had a blast. It was kind of my job to show them Purdue and show them, traditions, and show them, if they lose their ID, where do they go? Like I was kind of their first, like line of, like, if they have questions, like I would be the first one that they could go to. And so during the week, you kind of get to know your other freshmen in whatever BGR group you're in. There's a ton of like different panels as well. So if you have questions about academics, questions about social life, like there are various different panels that you'll be attending during the week. So not only is the week fun, it's also educational as well. And then there's events like Purdue After Dark, which basically they kind of like rent out, kind of block off an entire street of residential campus on Purdue, and they have like a DJ and basically a giant dance party. With COVID, I'm not sure how that went. I was not a TL last year, so I'm not sure how they're kind of adapting it, but they did still have it during COVID, and so it is still functional. And from what I've heard, still very effective. And so for international students, it'll actually be a little bit longer. And so instead of BGR, you'll be doing BGRI, basically BGR International. And so you'll be with other international students as well, and it'll be a little bit longer to kind of help you acclimate a little extra. But basically the entire week is an absolute blast. You meet your first friends at Purdue. I'm still friends with people from my BGR group. A lot of people are. And so it's kind of in a way its own Purdue tradition, even though you're doing, fountain runs and getting a den pop, all these Purdue traditions. But basically it's a giant, in a great way to introduce you to Purdue.
Yeah, so BGR, Boiler Gold Rush, is a fantastic freshman orientation program. It is optional, but highly recommended. I think over 90% of our students opt into it every year. It's been over 25 years that we've been doing BGR. So keep an eye out on the BGR website, as well as for BGRI. So if you just Google Purdue BGR or Purdue BGRI, it'll be the first thing that pops up. I do know there are a couple changes to how the program will work because of COVID, but they are still doing it. I think one of the changes this year is BGRI will be at the same time as BGR instead of coming in a little earlier, but the goal still remains the same. The BGRI aspect for international students is taking BGR just a little bit step further too, to help acclimate into life here in the US, here at Purdue and West Lafayette, just add a little bit of extra support for international students that may have no idea what to expect. But both are great opportunities and definitely recommend them. So let's see, what else do we have here? I guess, this could be freshman even through senior year. Did you get homesick? And if you did, I'll take it a step further. If you did, what were some of the ways you coped with that? So did any of the three of you, did any of you get homesick anytime you were at Purdue? Teddy, yeah?
Yeah, so I'm from a pretty small town in Iowa. I think coming to Purdue is certainly, like, we're a big-ish school. We're about 40,000 students, and so I'm from a smaller place, and so it was pretty intimidating for me coming in. And it was definitely like a step out of my comfort zone. And when I came in, I don't think that I really reached out enough to other people. I think that Purdue is really, really phenomenal community and a lot of different people and organizations and things that you can do to kind of build that community. But I came here and I didn't really take advantage of any of them. Like I mentioned before, I just kind of like kept to myself. And I think that contributed to me kind of feeling a little bit homesick. And so I think when I really started to feel at home at Purdue was, like I mentioned earlier, when I joined organizations and kind of, because, if you think about it, like PSEF is about 60 members. And so you have your own little kind of 60-person bubble or family within the larger school. And so that's when I think I really started to feel a lot less homesick and really kind of start to feel like Purdue was home. But it did take me a little bit. And so you have to be kind of active in seeking out these opportunities and seeking out these kind of other families and groups and things. But there's certainly so many available. And that's kind of the point, I guess, of this whole broadcast is, talk about some of those and let you guys know how you can get involved once you come to campus.
Yeah. How about any of you, Brianne, Jade, either of you ever like get homesick, or how did you kind of build your home away from home at Purdue? I know Brianne was Greek life. Did that play kind of a role in that too for you?
Yeah, so my freshman year, I didn't get super homesick just because with all of the excitement of being at Purdue and new things that I was joining, it was kind of a big distraction to have so many new experiences that I didn't think about it as much. I would say this past year, I got more homesick than I have in the past, just with classes getting tougher, and also especially this semester not having breaks and things. That's where I started to feel homesick for sure. But definitely talking to my mom on the phone was something that was a great comfort, as well as having a great community of friends here available to me to then talk to, hang out with, where if you're feeling sad or alone at any point for something, I know I would always have someone else that I could talk to, and other people who were even further away from home than I was because I'm from Illinois. So it's really not a great distance. But being able to talk to other people who are in the same boat as you, and especially a lot of people are missing their families, and especially for the first time not being away from your family, and not just being able to walk downstairs and talk to one of your family members is definitely a big transition. But the fact that everyone's in the same boat is something that's really comforting, with other people who are also in their freshman class. So that's something where it's really easy to talk about with other people, since other people can really understand where you're coming from. So I would say, though it did happen, it definitely was able to go away very quickly, based on the community that I had available to me.
Awesome. Jade, how about you? Did you have any trouble with that, or were you excited to get away from home? What was your kind of deal for freshman year?
Kind of a little bit of both. There definitely were times where I did get homesick, especially sophomore year is my first year inside my major after the FYE program. And so that was definitely, I think, my homesick year. But like Brianne said, calling my mom was probably the best thing I could do. My mom actually bought me a pillow freshman year that said "Call your mom," so she really likes when I call her. And honestly, they kind of made my day talking to her, and made it a lot better. And so that was honestly the primary first thing that I did to kind of ease the homesickness if I ever felt it. And I did have a car on campus 3 out of my 4 years here, and I'm only about 4 hours away. And so if I needed to go home, I could, but obviously that's not feasible for everybody. But definitely calling and FaceTiming family made it easier.
Nice. I think that's also why it's kind of important to try to get involved in something right off the bat. It could even be just one of the learning communities. It doesn't have to be a club or organization necessarily, but something to find that kind of community here on campus with a common interest that you have. So if it's one of the learning communities, like the EPICS learning community, because you're really passionate about community service, you're going to be paired up with a lot of other students that are passionate about community service, or joining a club, or joining choir or a band, whatever it may be, but getting involved off the bat. One of the other common questions we get, the first question would be, will I have a social life? And then the second kind of follow-up question after the answer is yes is, well, how much of a social life can I have? Would I be able to be super involved? I'll have to pick like one thing. So for our panelists, what has been your experience with that over the years? How have you found that balance between student life and academics? Have you been able to be involved in a lot of things, or have you kind of honed it down? Did it kind of change over the years? What's that process been like for you all? Teddy, we can start with you.
Yeah, for sure. I think certainly when you come to college, a big part of the adjustment is figuring out how you like to study, how you like to work, what times of day, what study strategies work best. And so I found definitely that I spent probably the most time on my schoolwork my freshman year, because I was just kind of figuring out how I needed to study, what I needed to do to be successful. And once you get a grasp on that, I think that you can really start to devote a lot more time to organizations. You can seriously do engineering as a 40, 45-hour a week job if you want to. If you go on campus and are very, very kind of diligent, put your phone down and just work for, 8 straight hours or something, it's very doable to do your classes. And I would say in my final semester, I probably spent 35, 40 hours a week on my classes, and then probably 50 or 60 hours a week on my extracurricular activities. And that was really fun for me. That was pretty fulfilling and what I wanted to do. And so it was cool for me because I understood very clearly what I had to do to be successful in my classes, and then could kind of devote some more time. And I think it is important that you do these other things, outside of just classes. because that's, I mean, I've said this like a million times, but like that's just when you really start to feel like Purdue is home, and that's when you really can kind of like explore your other passions and figure it out, what it is you want to do with your life. I don't know if anyone else has kind of a different take on this.
Yeah, anyone else want to chime in?
I can.
Jade?
Yeah, I kind of agree, because I've always said, like, on my tours as I'm talking to prospective students, and even like people that go to other universities, like, I'm grateful for the academics that Purdue offers. Obviously, that is the first reason why I came to Purdue. And there are opportunities, to get involved, which I liked, but I didn't truly understand kind of how much getting involved on campus would mean to me. But I'm about to graduate in 3 weeks, and I'm just now realizing that, academics weren't everything. When I look back at my, past 4 years at Purdue, I'm thinking about, the awesome degree that I just got, but I'm also thinking about, all the people that I got to meet through all the experiences that I have at Purdue. And student organizations is a huge part of on why I am like so proud of the last 4 years. Met amazing people, and I think the best way to kind of get the most out of your Purdue experience is getting involved in these amazing experiences on campus. And I can't really stress that enough.
Nice. Brianne, how about you?
I would definitely agree with both Jade and Teddy. Something that I love about Purdue is just sort of the community atmosphere here, where I feel like if you are just going to class, going home, studying, and getting a 4.0 and graduating, then you're doing it completely wrong. I think that Purdue students as a whole really encourage each other to get involved outside of their classes and to go to athletic games and things of that sort, so that you're not just here to study to be a good student, because you're only a student for so long. You have to enter the real world at some point too. And so I think that Purdue really makes great engineers, not just great students. And I think that's something that's really important, to sort of get that wholehearted experience and well-rounded skills that aren't just how to take a test or how to do a lab, but really how to talk to other people, having that professional development, social development, all of that stuff that the different organizations that are available to all students to be a part of is a really great opportunity. And especially with leadership, to be able to grow those skills. I think all of us can say that where we were freshman year and where we are now is completely different. And it's definitely because of the involvement that we've had on campus and the opportunities that we've had to grow and face different situations that you don't face just solving a math problem on a piece of paper, but it's really talking to other people and working towards a common goal and doing different things on campus that really help you develop in a really special way.
Awesome. Very well said. I'm really glad you brought up athletics. So even for those that are watching that may not be into sports or understanding of the sports, it's an awesome opportunity. It's really cool things to attend at Purdue are the different sporting events. We've got football, basketball, volleyball, baseball, softball. We've got the Grand Prix, which is an annual go-kart race, which I guess this year is being live streamed to the viewers, which is interesting, but got to keep the tradition alive, man. So let's talk a little bit about athletics. Have any of you guys been to any of the games in your times at Purdue? Do you have a cool experience you want to talk about, or maybe like trying to sell some of the students that typically aren't in sports on why they might still want to go to at least a basketball game or something? Jade, go ahead.
Okay, so I grew up around St. Louis, so no basketball, like not a basketball town at all. I moved to Indiana for the last 4 years, and I understand why people are so hyped about March Madness and college basketball. Mackey Arena, I will plug any day. It is the best college basketball arena in the country, and I cannot be fought on that. Even like NCAA announcers as well, they will kind of attest to that and say, like, my parents have texted me, they're watching the Purdue game, I'm there at Mackey Arena here in West Lafayette, and they say, are you there? Because the announcers, we can't hear the announcers over the crowd on TV. It's an insane atmosphere, and I'm a huge Purdue basketball fan, obviously all Purdue sports as well, but something about the Purdue basketball year really gets me. And I've traveled to Louisville for the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, whatever it was, a few years ago. Big sad loss there, but we came back the next season, so it's okay. I usually lose my voice at every game. The paint crew is our student section, is what it's called. An incredible experience overall, and I cannot talk enough about it.
Awesome. Anyone else have cool sports stories?
I guess
Teddy?
I can go. So even though, okay, so Purdue is mainly, Indiana is very much a basketball state. And like Jade said, basketball, Mackey, incredible. Little plug for Ross Aid. So football at Purdue, not amazing. We're never the best team in the world. We're consistently average. But Purdue is always good for one massive upset. When we beat Ohio State in 2018, literally one of the most fun like evenings of my life. It was like one of the coolest Purdue experiences that I've ever been a part of. We're also, so like Purdue football might not be that good, but we always have exciting players. So we had like 2 pretty much first round wide receivers this year, likely a few more coming down the pipeline. And so it's really fun to go. And tickets to Purdue sporting events are super, super accessible. You can buy the boarding pass, it's called. It's $99 and it gets you tickets to pretty much all sporting events at Purdue, football, basketball, volleyball, etc., which is super cheap if you compare that to other schools in the Big Ten. And so they make it very, very easy to get tickets. Like I don't know, like a lot of my friends went to Iowa and it's $250 just for football tickets. So just keep that in mind. Like it's super easy to go and you should go to all the sporting events that you can because it is super fun, even if we have not the greatest chance of winning all the time.
Yeah, they're really good at still having just a fun atmosphere. The student section's always having a blast. Football games, basketball games, all of the events. I even went to a volleyball game when I was a student, and I was really surprised. I had never really been around, like, I don't know, I've never really gone to volleyball games. It was not really a thing in any of my the high schools I'd been to. And it was a blast. And like our volleyball team is consistently very good. They're actually going to the Elite 8 right now for the NCAA tournament. So fantastic volleyball team. The atmosphere in Mackey is just absolutely unreal for basketball games. I've never experienced anything like it at any of the other arenas I've been at for college sports, even professional sports. It is very surreal. And Teddy, I was at that game too for excuse me, when our football team upset Ohio State. I'm just getting all just emotional about it just now. I'm getting all choked up. But that whole night was nuts. It was like a very surreal experience the entire time because we dominated that game from the start, and everyone's just looking around like this can't be real life. So definitely check out a sporting event if and when you come to Purdue. You will not regret it, I promise. Even if you have no idea what they're doing on the field or on the court, you're gonna really love the vibe. It's just gonna be an electric atmosphere no matter what you do. Highly recommend. That boarding pass is a great deal. Back in my day, when I was a student at Purdue, it was a lot more expensive. You had to buy the football tickets separate from the basketball tickets. The basketball tickets were like $300. The football tickets were like $150. So really great deal. You get $99 for season tickets to every sporting event at Purdue. So let's see, we've covered student life, or rather student organizations and clubs. We've covered athletics. We've covered group life a little bit. Let's talk about how about concerts and some of the different things that Purdue Convocations brings through. Anybody been to any concerts or comedians or anything like that over their time? Teddy, back to you.
Yes. Okay. So this is the funniest thing in the world. My freshman year, Purdue brought Waka Flocka to Purdue, and it was an indoor concert. So it was inside Elliott Hall of Music, which is this phenomenal concert hall, absolutely unreal. But it was an indoor Waka Flocka concert, which was hilarious. They also, if you like indie bands, so Purdue brought Young the Giant and the Griswolds, which were both phenomenal concerts on Slater Hill. There's kind of a nice hill with kind of an amphitheater that students can go and sit at and enjoy some concerts. And it happened fairly consistently, kind of pre-COVID. So that was always something to look forward to. There's also a lot of other really cool convocations that they put on. So Bill Nye came to Purdue last year. Condoleezza Rice, the former Secretary of State, she came to Purdue, and that was one of the most impactful talks that I've ever gone to in my life. So they're very consistently bringing people to campus, and kind of in these times, where it's a little harder to bring people to campus, they're still putting things on. So there's been a lot of really interesting kind of virtual talks with a variety of very, very cool people. And so there's always things going on. You kind of have to seek them out a little bit. So definitely always be on the lookout for these things, but it is fun. And concerts are surprisingly big at Purdue. So if you're into music, it's a good place to be. Also, Ari, I don't know if this happened when you were here, but Lady Gaga came to Purdue a few years before I got here. And so that also was a thing. So very big.
That was pretty wild. Lady Gaga, she had to cancel because she got sick, and then she made it up and came back later. That was awesome. I remember, so I was in the concert band and orchestra and marching band at Purdue, and Avicii came, and he was doing his sound check during our concert band rehearsal, and like the band room is right below the stage where all the musicians come and play, Elliott Hall Music, which is the largest proscenium theater in the world, by the way. So Avicii was doing a sound check up there, and the dust was literally like coming off the ceiling from the stage up above. Like you thought the whole building was going to shake down. We've had a lot of really cool acts come through. So no matter what kind of genre you're interested in, we've had country artists, we've had rap, we've had pop stars, we've had techno. All of the big names you can think of have probably been through Purdue, surprisingly. We've had some cool comedians. We have Broadway shows that come through. Jade, Brianne, have you guys been to any concerts or anything like that? What have you guys experienced? Jade?
I didn't go to any concerts unless it was like just the Purdue bands on the like Slater Hill and stuff like that. I've always been busy during them, which is so unfortunate. But I did attend. I went to Bill Nye, which was so cool. My childhood was complete at that point. I've been to a few talks as well. A few weeks ago, Purdue Student Government brought Mina Harris, so the vice president's niece. So that was awesome because she has, her own company and things like that. So it was awesome to hear her talk about that and all of her experiences. That was, and that was virtual, and so they're still putting things on through COVID, and even though bringing people to campus is a little bit harder now. But yeah, so like Teddy said, it's very consistent, and it's not just no name people. Like there's some pretty cool people that come to campus.
Yeah, we also have some really cool people come and just kind of talk about their history. So we had Bill Nye, we've had several astronauts come back. We've had several astronauts from Purdue. We're known as the cradle of astronauts. We're up to, 26 now, I think? 25. I think 25, and maybe one that's just going through training right now. So lots of astronauts from Purdue. We've had several come back to campus. So lots of opportunities for that cultural enrichment through Broadway musical acts, comedians. So lots of ways to get that sort of thing. And is there any other kind of aspect? Let's talk about just kind of outside of all those organized things. Maybe just hanging out with your friends. Does anybody have a fun story of just that's appropriate, obviously, for our current audience? But any fun story, maybe something you never would have expected to do in college with your friends. Again, keeping it PG rated here. Yeah, Jay, go ahead.
Okay, so this is something that Purdue kind of does. I guess it's kind of a Purdue tradition. At the first big snow that we have, we go up to Slater Hill where a lot of these concerts are happening. It's a big old hill with an amphitheater at the bottom. And the first snow, everybody kind of flocks to Slater Hill to go sledding because it's giant. But college kids don't have sleds, and so you have people sledding down on their lids of bins, on actual doors from their houses, on trash cans, in kayaks. Someone had a kayak, on each other. So it's a lot of fun just to see kind of how creative people get on what to sled down, Slater Hill on. But that's something fun that I think a lot of people look forward to, at least in the winters, because the winters do get cold here. But once that first snow hits, Slater's packed, and it's a lot of fun just to go out there with your friends.
I think the best one I've seen, this was a long while ago, is they made a couch ski. They took an old couch and put skis on the bottom of it and went down Slater on that. I wonder if anybody's out today. So I'm going to show you guys. This is typical late spring in Indiana. It is snowing out. There's snow on the ground. So I wonder if anybody's out sledding right now. But I will say to our viewers, don't freak out. This is very abnormal. This is record, the latest snowfall since the 80s. It's not snowing here all the time, but it does snow. Anybody else have some cool just experiences with friends, either on campus or off? Teddy?
Yeah, so I lived with 3 other guys in this organization, PSEF. So we lived together for the last 3 years, 2 of which were in on-campus houses, which was super fun. I don't know, when I came to Purdue, I just anticipated that you kind of just stayed in the dorms all 4 years and just hung out there and had a meal plan and stuff. But we moved into off-campus houses, which are super cheap. first off, and it's really fun because you can have like a yard, you can have a grill, and just have a lot of space. And so we were like homeowners together for 2 years, which was very fun. But definitely recommend that. I don't know, there's nothing better than like living. When you're in a dorm, it's very fun because like you're in one building with all of your friends, and then once you leave, it's like kind of weird to not be in that situation. But we all moved into a house together and absolutely loved it. So definitely recommend doing that when you come here. Don't expect to live in the dorms for all 4 years. There's a lot of great housing options here, and literally all of my favorite memories involve the house in one way or another. So very, very special.
Awesome. How about Brienne? Do you have any fun stories?
Yeah, I was gonna say some of my favorite memories are when nothing is planned, but like Teddy said, just sort of being around people all the time. You always have people who want to do things. If you're bored or just need some time off of homework, need a brain break or anything like that. And so lately, my friends and I, when the weather is nice, have just been going across the street from where we live and playing catch, just sort of running around, even though it sounds silly. But just sort of having that break from having to really focus on anything to just sort of be silly. And my mom mailed us a Frisbee and a football and a volleyball. And so it's been really fun to just sort of do those outdoor activities that you don't normally have time for because you're always sort of in the hustle and bustle. But just to take that time off, just to sort of have fun has been definitely some of my favorite memories from this year.
Nice. How about traveling? Has anybody like gone anywhere cool as a student? It can be over spring break, it can be random trips. Because I know, you know, we like to say that we're an hour away from Indianapolis, 2 hours away from Chicago, but we're also, just because we're in the Midwest, there's a lot of places within just a few hours drive. So what's been some fun trips you guys have been on, either through Purdue or just kind of on your own? Jade, go ahead.
Yeah, I can take it. So over the last 4 years, so spring break freshman year, I went to Florida with my friends. And, you know, that's just typical college spring break. And so that wasn't necessarily Purdue specific, but we've gone to Indianapolis and back many times, just an hour, especially when you have a car. If you literally just want a fancy brunch, you can go to Indianapolis for it. We've been to Chicago, which is 2 hours away. We've been to Nashville, which is around 5, I believe. We have been to the Indiana Dunes, which was just made a national park. So that's like an hour and a half to 2 hours up north on Lake Michigan. So, you know, sandy dunes and things. We took our dog and everything. And a lot of people that go up to the actual Michigan dunes or kind of, you know, I go home, you know, some people go to St. Louis, but that's home for me. So I kind of avoid that. No, just kidding. And so, yeah, I've kind of hopped everywhere, but definitely Indianapolis and Chicago are definitely big ones to hit if you just need a weekend off or if you have, you know, family there or whatever. You know, easy little like shopping breaks if you need.
I had no idea that Indiana Dunes is now a national park. That's cool. Who else? Brienne?
Something else that is a really good opportunity is the Ski and Snowboard Club does a ski trip every year, which I haven't been on, but a lot of my friends went, and they basically take a bus from Purdue to wherever it is that the destination is that year. So 2 years ago, it was Breckenridge, Colorado. And so everyone went on the bus. They bused all the way to Colorado. Everyone stayed together, skied every day. And it's right at the end of winter break also. So everyone just comes to campus early and then goes to Colorado and then comes back for the start of second semester. And so I'd never skied before, so that was something that I was not interested in, starting off in Colorado as my first time. But that's something that they have said was a great experience to be able to be with so many other Purdue students and just have that opportunity to be skiing for so many days in a row. And they do get really great discounts on like rentals and the actual staying in wherever the location is. They change it every year, but that's something that I've heard really great reviews about as well.
Teddy, I'm sure you've got plenty of stories.
So I should have talked about this for like my favorite random story or whatever, but freshman year, so I lived with my roommate Mark. He was pretty much a random roommate for all 4 years. And we had 2 other friends, and one night we were just all hanging out. It was like maybe 6, I don't know, probably 5:30. and we were really hungry, and we weren't exactly, for some reason, we didn't like what the dining courts were offering that day, and we're like, some barbecue would be great. And so we looked for barbecue restaurants kind of in the area, and didn't find anything that was like really spectacular. So we were like, what if we drove to Louisville? And so it was a Thursday night, and so we all drove to Louisville and got barbecue and just like walked around for a while. Got back at like 3 a.m. that night. But honestly, one of my favorite college memories, because it was just so funny. We just like spur of the moment, we're like, we're gonna go to Louisville, and then we did. And absolutely just very funny, and like one of those things that you always remember, and like maybe you didn't get the most sleep. I think Jade said this earlier, but like maybe you didn't get the most sleep, and like maybe you didn't, maybe you had to push a homework assignment or something, but like that's absolutely the stuff that you remember. It's so very special.
I was really hoping you were going to tell that story. That's one of my favorite stories from our students I've worked with.
You know me too well, Art. You know me too well.
It's good stuff. So we have a whole slew of questions coming in. So let's talk about the dining courts. I mean, so I know most of you probably living off campus, but you probably live on campus for a little bit. Situation with dining courts is a little weird this year with COVID, but hopefully we'll be back to normal in the fall. But how was the food in the dining courts? What was the food situation? I mean, obviously I was there. I know what the answer is, but I want to hear from y'all. What was your experience with the food, the dining courts? Do you recommend it? What do you think? What are the thoughts, Brianne?
I would highly recommend it just because of the options that are available. Because I'm a vegetarian, so there are some places that I can't find as many options at. But every dining court has its own sort of specialty to it. And so there's one that does more like meat type stuff. There's one that has basically a burrito bowl. There's one that does stir fry. And so there really is a really great variety of things depending on what it is you're in the mood for. So my freshman year, I never got sick of the food because you could always just switch to a different one. And even as a sophomore, when I didn't have a meal plan, I always wanted my friends who had meal plans to swipe me in so that I could go back. So I would definitely highly recommend the food options that we have.
I would say too. So actually in 2019, they did a bracket during March Madness of all of the different like dining court foods of all the teams that were in March Madness. They called it like Food Madness or something very clever like that. And Purdue actually won, which is kind of a little known fact. So we were deemed to have the best dining court food of all 64 teams that were in March Madness. So very good options. And also, if you're not feeling whatever the dining courts are offering on that day, you don't need to drive to Louisville because they actually just put in like a Chick-fil-A, a Qdoba, a Jersey Mike's, a Panera, and a Salad Works that you can use meal swipes at. And so if you just like want Chick-fil-A, you can go and get Chick-fil-A, which is wonderful. I don't have a dining plan, but I've still like gone to the Chick-fil-A and just like paid with credit. So a lot of great options on campus. You will not go hungry. And I saw someone ask about the freshman 15 in here. Very possible. You have to kind of, maybe manage your calories. But there's nothing wrong with going to the dining courts and having like a pizza binge or something. Highly recommend that.
So speaking of the freshman 15, the co-rec, our gym on campus is phenomenal. It was renovated, like fully renovated. I want to say like maybe 2012, 2011. And it went from being 0 to like 100. It's a fantastic facility. So one of the ways to help maybe keep off the freshman 15, any of you guys go to the co-rec often? Want to chat about it? Talk more about what it's like?
Not a very active bunch. Go.
Yeah, I know it's been a little weird.
Yeah, I used to go more often than I do now, but now it's a little bit different. It's like I live off campus now, so it's a little farther away from me, and I like to run outside rather than running inside with a mask, and so I'm kind of one of those. But I used to go a lot, and there are an endless amount of whatever machine that you want there. There is like an indoor track. There are 2 indoor tracks actually. There's a rock climbing wall. There are like 2 or 3 pools. There's a hot tub. So really anything that you really want at all. There's actually like when I would bike on the bike machines, there are like certain areas that like all of them have bikes, but there's like one that I would always show like the news, and that's what I wanted to watch. So like you could literally choose from like different areas and what you want to watch, what you want to do, like whatever. There is, what else is in there? There's like a huge weight room. I'm sure Teddy could talk about that. But yeah, like insane resources in there. Like really, honestly, anything that you want to do. There's sand volleyball pits. There's tennis courts. Really anything.
We've even got racquetball courts, which is not a thing I'd even heard of until I came to Purdue. So I played a lot of racquetball. They'll do volleyball in there. There's basketball courts. Yeah, it's pretty extensive. They even have like, you can get a massage there now. Like there's also a test or like a teaching kitchen, a learning kitchen. So they'll do cooking classes. Teddy, did I see your hand raised?
Oh no, I was just snapping along with what you were saying, Ari, as far as the massage. But just I guess to kind of like touch on Jade's point too, like I'm a competitive powerlifter in my free time. I'm on like the club powerlifting team, and I think Purdue has probably the nicest collection of weight training equipment that I've ever seen in one facility. It also has 3 saunas, which is like just an unnecessary amount of saunas. So I love it. I spend probably like 10 to 15 hours a week there. And it's like kind of my home away from home a little bit. I love going, and it's seriously just so nice. So like if you come to Purdue, like you probably won't be able to go into the co-rec, but at least walk through, because it's seriously incredible. And also there's a lot of really fun kind of like intramural sports. Brianne, I know that you're kind of a sports star, so you don't want to talk about those.
I wouldn't consider myself a star by any means, but there are tons of different intramural sports that you can take part in. So we have teams for PSEF. There are all different organizations that make teams, and you can just make teams with a group of friends if you want to get involved in any sports that are available as well. So we have all sorts of different things. We even have like pickleball and things that aren't quite as common with people. And so that's something that has been super fun to just sort of take that break off of what you're doing. And even if you don't want to do an organized sport, they also have different classes that you can take. So cycling classes, group X classes, all of that sort of thing. They have yoga available. And so if you like to do sort of organized things where you kind of have that guidance for how you want to work out, they have that available to you as well. And it's super easy to sign up and get in those classes. So definitely a great opportunity there.
Okay, so man, we've talked about a lot of the different aspects. So we've got intramurals, athletics. Does anybody, I know none of the 3 of you have done ROTC, but that's another thing that a lot of students are involved in. Do you know anybody that's done ROTC in engineering? Jade, you do? So we have proof. I don't know how much you know about them, but do you want to talk a little bit about? Yeah. Go ahead.
So I'm in class with 2 BMEs with me in my grade that do ROTC, and I worked in a project with one of them, so I know one of them more than the other. But from what I know, from what I've heard, it's completely doable if you have the kind of stamina for it. You do have to wake up earlier for it. You obviously have a schedule you need to meet. But there are engineers that do it, and they're usually rock stars at scheduling things, just because, you know, they can run off of whatever sleep they need or that they're getting. But from what I've heard, they're enjoying it, and they're doing, you know, they've done it all 4 years, and things like that. And so if that's something that people are interested in, you definitely won't be the only engineer.
Yeah, I think it's typically been anywhere from like a quarter to a third of the RTC students are engineering students. One of my good buddies, when I was in the marching band at Purdue, he was on the drum line with me. He was in the marching band, which is a pretty good time commitment, 10 hours a week rehearsal and game days. He was aeronautical, astronautical engineering student, and he was in the Air Force ROTC, all 3 at the same time. So he was who I would always use an example of. You can literally do anything that you want to as an engineering student at Purdue. It will just take time management. You got to find your passions, see, you know, what you want to make time for. But if he was able to do all those 3 things that all are very rigorous in their own right, you can absolutely get involved in a lot of different things. It's also around a quarter to a third of the marching band, or just all those in Purdue bands and orchestras, about around a quarter to a third of them. I think it's about a quarter of them are engineering specifically, and then over half the students in Purdue bands and orchestras are STEM students. We have no music major currently at Purdue. They're all doing the music on the side. That's because it's a side passion. They get to get the best of both worlds, a fantastic major degree, and be involved in really great bands and orchestras. Purdue musical organizations, that's our choirs. About 20% or about a quarter of them are engineering students. So if you have a passion for singing, you can get involved with PMO, any of their choirs. So lots and lots and lots of opportunities for student life. I hope you've been able to see and hear about throughout this first 50 minutes of things. So let's get into some of the questions from our viewers. We've got a pretty good stream of them rolling in. This is a really good one. So hopefully things will be kind of back to a new normal for fall as far as COVID goes. Purdue has announced that as long as current trends continue, more people getting vaccinated, overall outbreaks lowering, we do hope to be fully back to kind of like normal-ish operations this fall. So back to on-campus classes. Hopefully some of those restrictions will be a little bit loosened. But for my panelists, how has student life changed on campus since COVID? How have you been kind of adapting to it, or how has it been kind of working for you all? Anybody want to chat about it?
Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. So things have definitely been adapted since COVID has hit, but a lot of student organizations have been able to be really creative with the way they've been doing things now that everything has basically changed. So for us in PSEF, a lot of the typical events that we host haven't been able to happen, so we've had to sort of shift. But in that, we sort of got to be more creative and think of new different ideas to sort of challenge the way that things have been done for so many years in the past. For example, we have an event called the Engineering Expo, where basically we usually bring younger students to campus to teach them about engineering and have different engineering design challenges. And so this year it was online, but that allowed us to then have a broader reach of students that we were connecting with, because we didn't just have to talk to students that were in Indiana who could make it to campus, but we could also sort of broaden that reach outside of that, as well as being able to then sort of in the world of Zoom that we have now, sort of gain the connections that we have with people outside of campus as well. And so definitely having alumni speakers as well as different panels that the college has been putting on has been a really great resource, sort of being able to still maintain that connection even though people are distanced. And I think especially with things opening up more and vaccinations sort of rolling in now, things have been definitely getting a lot better with what you're able to do. We're still able to meet in person by getting it approved with the Student Activities Office. And so we've been able to just start having our club meetings in person so that at least we can still see each other and following those different guidelines to make sure that everyone's still staying safe and comfortable. And so definitely having a time of flexibility where you can adapt to those new things, but definitely opening it up to many different things that you can now do that we weren't able to do in the past.
Awesome. Anyone else? Jade or Teddy, have anything else you kind of want to share about how COVID's kind of impacted your student life, social scene, and how you maybe adjusted to it, or be able to still find those connections?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about that. So one of the biggest things that I have just kind of noticed as I've kind of gone my senior and half of junior year, half online. So one of the things that I'm involved with on campus is Purdue Mortar Board, Purdue's chapter of Mortar Board. So Mortar Board is a national college senior honor society, and Purdue's chapter has about 42 seniors that were chosen to be part of our class. And so we do various events on campus, through like our ideals of scholarship, leadership, and service. And so that being part of Mortar Board has always, I guess, for previous classes, it has always been kind of like the highlight of people's senior year. You get to meet all these amazing people from around campus and put on like cool events and like kind of lead campus in a way. But my class was almost completely online. However, I think being in kind of the mindset of we're all in this together, we tried our absolute hardest to try to get to know each other. And even through being mostly online, probably 80% online, we've had a few events in person, but very distant and limited. But even through being mostly online with the people that I've like spent the last year with in this honor society, I've met some of my best friends, and I think when kind of approaching online school and half online college or whatever it's going to be next year, just kind of keep that in mind, is that people still want to meet other people, no matter like what kind of weird circumstances it's going to be in. And so that's kind of my shining example of how like you can still make literally some of your best friends, even though you're mostly online and things like that. And even though it has changed, my experience was, you know, not dull in any way just because of that.
Nice. Well, thanks for your insights on that. I mean, I got to say, I've been very impressed with Purdue as an organization, but also just our students through all of this. Purdue was one of the first to announce back when this was all starting that, you know, back in the spring that we'd be going to online in the middle of the spring semester right before spring break, which was rough. But they were also one of the first to announce that we would offer an on-campus experience this past fall. And a lot of people, honestly, myself included, were like, I gave it like 3 weeks or we're gonna have to shut down again. But no, we made it through. We've had no severe outbreaks on campus. Purdue got with all of the scientists on campus and with the local and state health departments and put together a very comprehensive plan we've called Protect Purdue. If you've been on any of our social media accounts, it's a large part of Purdue's social media is Protect Purdue. Just that constant reminder to always be on your guard. But we've done a very good job, both administratively of having these guidelines and protocols to protect our students and staff and faculty, but also our students adhering to them. It's been very cool to see. I think we really proved a lot of people wrong that our students can be responsible and like look out for each other, which is also something I've always been proud of Purdue anyway, is we're a very community-based campus. You get to know a lot of your classmates just even without really trying. We're just all really there to kind of support each other and help each other out in classes, outside of class, a very social campus. But again, I'm hoping that we'll be kind of figuring out what the new normal is for those of you watching this fall, that things will be kind of getting back to a little bit normal. There might still be some restrictions around maybe mask wearing or number, like how many people can be in groups, but hopefully a little bit more relaxed as long as the current trends continue of fewer cases, more people vaccinated, hopefully approaching herd immunity and all of that. But I know a lot of us are probably sick of talking about COVID too and hearing about it, but we'll get there someday. So one of the questions I saw come in, is it possible to obtain a job at or around Purdue's campus while still being involved in extracurriculars and maybe even being a first-year engineering student? Did any of you guys have campus jobs over your course of your time as students? Jade, kinda?
Yeah, I don't know if I would really count it as like a part-time job. I not only give tours with Teddy and Brianne through PSEF, but I also give tours for the BME building. And technically, since that's outside of an organization on campus, I got paid for it. But it was paid per tour, and so I definitely didn't make enough. I mean, my dad's an accountant, so I did tax it, but like it definitely just paid for my coffee. It wasn't like a huge like I didn't put it towards tuition or anything like that. But no, so I know other people, like my roommate is a TA, and so she kind of counts that as her job on campus because you are paid. And so she's been a TA for 2 or 3 years for various biological engineering classes. And I know a lot of other people that also take that route. Either they're like asked to do it by professor because they got a good grade in it and they just do it for fun, or they do it for pay for just kind of help out with tuition, things like that. There are also jobs available at the dining court. You can give tours through the admissions department and get paid for those. So there are various kind of options. There's different cafes you can get jobs at, a lot of different options.
And TA, in case you got confused by all of our acronyms, TA is teaching assistant, so I'm not professors with the classes. There are a lot of acronyms in higher ed. If we ever get you all confused with the acronyms, feel free to ask in the chat, and we'll clarify if we ever get too acronymy. Another great question I saw come in, there was kind of a couple back-to-back of like how many people get involved in Greek life, but also kind of in practice, I guess, how is the interactions between, you know, students in Greek life, students not in Greek life? Is it kind of a rift? So kind of talking about how like we're very much kind of a community-based campus. Brianne, I know you are in Greek life. Do you feel disconnected from those not in Greek life? Do you look down your nose at those that aren't in Greek life? I mean, what's been your experiences with that of like kind of like the being in it, not being in it? How's that been for you?
I definitely don't personally feel any sort of separation or superiority that people may say that comes with being in Greek life. I think Purdue has a really great community, and since it's not an intense presence on campus, it's not something that if you choose to not be involved in Greek life that you'll be left out or anything of that sort. And it's definitely nice to have that community available to me, just having sort of an immediate connection with someone if I meet them, and I know other people that are also in their chapter. But that's something that is pretty much the same with student organizations as well. When you meet people who's in a student org that you know other people and then you immediately have those connections. And some of my closest friends aren't in Greek life with me, just from meeting them in classes and different student organizations as well. So I would say that it's definitely a great opportunity if that's something that you choose to get involved in. But if you choose not to get involved in it, it definitely is not something that's going to be sort of put you behind in any way. So it's really just a personal preference for people based on if you want to or not.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like this is something you mostly just see in the movies. Maybe it happens at other campuses, but it's certainly never anything I have seen or experienced at Purdue as far as like the Greek life really being separate. Nobody really cares if you're in it or not. It's not like the first question you get asked when you meet somebody who's like, oh, what house are you in? It's there for those that want to be part of it, and for those that don't, that's also totally fine. I think we are like near the top in the country in terms of like percentage participation in Greek life, like the percentage of students that are involved. But even still, being a high participation rate, I think is still around like 20-something% maybe. But yeah, there is no rift there. It's totally cool if you want to be part of it. It's totally cool if you don't want to be part of Greek life. And that's true with really anything on campus. They're all just opportunities. They're all things that are there for those that want to be part of them. Yeah. Do students ride bikes? Is it worth bringing one? Is there a place to buy a used bike nearby? Any of you guys big bike riders on campus? Jade, kind of, or at least you ride a bike around campus?
Yeah, I did my junior year because it was the first year I lived off campus. I was a little afraid of the walk to campus, but during senior year, I haven't ridden the bike once, so I was scared for nothing. But I did ride my bike to the biomedical engineering building quite often because it's a little bit away from many other buildings on campus because it's in kind of a research park area of campus. But so I did ride my bike junior year. There are bike lanes literally everywhere on campus. It's insane not to see them. And a lot of other people also ride their bikes as well. There's, bike racks all over campus, and then a lot of other people skateboard normally, but also some people ride the boosted boards that go insanely fast. I don't know how they fall off. And they're also, just in terms of transportation, there's also a bus route that is free for Purdue students that literally goes everywhere, kind of on the outskirts of campus. And so you can go, I believe the saying is that you can get anywhere in 15 minutes on a campus on that bus route. And so when it's really, really cold or there's a foot of snow on the ground, there's an app that you can actually see when it's coming to your stop. You can time it perfectly and ride to the farthest building that you can. So yeah, people definitely ride their bikes, especially if you're off campus.
I loved riding my bike. Teddy, did you have something before I'm trying to give you guys, priority here.
No, you're fine, Ari. I was just going to say, kind of to Jade's point, I've never actually ridden a bus at Purdue. I've been here for 5 years and I'll graduate in 5.5, and I've literally never ridden a bus. It is very walkable in general. So kind of like to Jade's point, so you can bring a bike, but you might not actually end up using it. I think your longest walk is pretty much 15 minutes. I've lived in off-campus houses, like I mentioned, and literally my longest walk is like 17 or 18 to the co-rec. Purdue's laid out a lot differently than I think a lot of colleges, and so if you want to walk everywhere, you totally can. You don't need to take a bus. And maybe it was just like a thing for me. After a couple of years, I was like, I've never taken a bus, so I'm not going to. But I've never needed one, and you won't either.
Counterpoint to that, I loved riding my bike around campus. I grew up riding bikes. And so I biked everywhere my entire time, pretty much as a student. I had a car. I never had a car until my senior year at Purdue. I also lived on campus my entire time as a student, though, in the on-campus housing. But since I graduated years ago, it's become even more bike friendly. There's bike lanes all across campus. There's both some dedicated, separated bike lanes off the street, as well as just lanes along the street. There's a lot of paths through campus. So very, very bike friendly for those that are bringing a bike. There's even some bike repair stations around campus. There's a couple bike shops close by too. There's one in West Lafayette down at what we call the levee right next to the river. There's also a really nice bike shop just across the river over in downtown Lafayette, like a 8-minute walk maybe, or a 5-minute bike ride from campus. So there's a couple places nearby too to buy bikes or to have it worked on. But yeah, we're a very bike-friendly campus. I think we're ranked in the top 10 for bike-friendly campuses. There's even like a kind of an accreditation like body out there that like there's like tiers of bike friendliness, and I think we're like silver or gold tier. So yeah, for those that are bike riders, definitely feel free to bring it or get one when you're here. It's a great campus for it. I would ride the bus though in the winter. At least that's what I did, because it was a little too cold to ride the bike for me. And that's where Jade was mentioning, we've got a great bus system that goes all across campus, goes outside of campus, it's free. And yeah, the app will tell you exactly where the bus is, so you can wait inside in the warmth, see when it's about to come around the corner on your phone and run out to catch it. Now, back in my day, we did not have that. It was always wrong, but now it's actually really accurate. So biking, busing, skateboarding, whatever it is, you're welcome to do so on campus. All right. Anybody else see any good questions that have come in while we've been chatting that you want to answer on air?
I feel like we're getting a fair amount of questions kind of related to like work experiences and stuff, and kind of like what, how maybe kind of co-op and different things like that kind of fit into student life.
We're in the second hour now, so we can open it up outside of student life. So Teddy, I know you mentioned you've done co-op, right? Do you want to talk about some of the work opportunities you've had?
Yeah, I totally can. So I took a fall semester of my sophomore year off and worked for a company called Arconic in LaPorte, Indiana. So kind of I took that whole semester off school and then went and worked about 2 hours north. And so took the entire semester off. It was like a 16-week work experience. And just kind of like to keep it within the realm of student life, I guess, before we move out of that. One of the big questions you get with co-op is kind of like, how does it impact your experience while you're here? Because you are kind of leaving campus and coming back to campus. You're kind of alternating every other session, session being a fall, a spring, or a summer working and then going to school. And so you do end up a little bit kind of like off track compared to everyone else. And that was kind of weird for me because I left and then came back and I was almost like a semester behind within the program. But it was a great experience for me. Like I would absolutely do it again. And typically there's like, I don't know, maybe 1,000, 1,500 co-ops at any given point at Purdue. And so you kind of like form a community with those people. As you kind of leave and come back, you'll always know people in that way. And so I don't know, it's not a huge impact on student life, but it can kind of make things just a little bit weird. And I think that's maybe one of the downsides of co-op, but on the plus side, you get a phenomenal work experience and kind of like a guaranteed number of work experiences. So definitely some big pluses there. I don't know if anyone else has any kind of thoughts on that. I don't think either of you two did co-op, but you could talk about like internships and student life.
Yeah, what kind of work experiences have you guys had over the years? Jade?
Yeah, most of my work experiences have been research-based because I'm a big research person. I'm in BME, which is a pretty research-heavy program, but that was kind of my thing to get involved with kind of outside of classes academically. And so I've done undergraduate research here for 3 years. In the same BME lab. We work in cancer engineering and tissue engineering, so we're making little scaffolds that we kind of use to kind of study cancer migration and the cancer microenvironment. And so every semester I work with a grad student. I just happen to be in the same lab all 3 years. You don't have to be. I have worked with the same grad student and professor in his lab for the last 3 years. And I've been working with my grad student on this project, and it kind of just depends on how much time you want to put into whatever project you're on. And so you can go, at least in BME specifically, it kind of depends, throughout different majors, but BME allows you to do up to 3 credits of research. And so, 1 to 2 credits is about 5 to 10 hours per week in the lab. And so if you have your own project, or if you're on like a project with more students and things like that, that kind of can change your credit load in terms of research. And so you can also do it for pay, which a lot of students do if they're kind of saving up for med school or whatever. And so I specifically was interested in grad school after graduation. So I did all my undergraduate research for credit. It's a great opportunity for any student, no matter if they're looking for research as a career. I didn't realize I wanted research as a career when I first started doing it, but I highly recommend getting involved in it anyway, because one, you can learn if you want research as a career or not. I know a lot of people that have done research liked it, but realized they didn't want it as a career. They wanted to go more industry. And it's also, you get to be on your own project a lot of times, and you get a lot of like time on your own to kind of focus and learn how you work and things like that, and learn what you like about research or what you like about your major. And so I highly recommend it. It's a great experience. And so a lot of my internships as well have kind of translated into research. And so I worked at Washington University in St. Louis 2 summers ago for a cancer lab there, which I ended up getting. He's the same, my boss there, my professor there, will also be my thesis professor for my master's there. So like that was an awesome connection I got to keep. And then my next internship last summer was actually at the Purdue Research Park up here, which is a kind of an entrepreneurship hub. It's one of like the most concentrated areas for entrepreneurship and startups in the country. And so it's right north off of campus. You can take the bus there, and they're just basically just like a lot of different startups there. And I worked for a pharmaceutical startup, so that was a very interesting experience because I had never worked in a startup. I never worked in that kind of setting. So that was really, really interesting. And so a lot of my experiences have been research based, just because I do happen to be going to grad school for a thesis, but that just kind of sells the point of there are a lot of different opportunities you can get involved with in terms of work.
Absolutely, a lot of different opportunities. And then Brianne, I know you've done a couple internships. I know they were like super small companies that nobody's probably ever heard of. But do you want to talk about who you've worked with and what all you've done?
Yeah. So I haven't done a co-op or anything during the school year, but I've had 2 summer internships so far. So after my freshman year, I interned with Caterpillar, and so I was able to do some design work. And so definitely great, especially in mechanical engineering, to sort of have that opportunity to figure out what it is that you want to do within your major, because there are so many different ways that you can go, such as Jade finding out that she wants to do research. So you're sort of able to figure out, sort of get that actual experience in industry. And then my sophomore year, I interned with ExxonMobil, so I did some more technical engineering. And so through those, I was really able to narrow down sort of what position I actually want to do as a career and moving forward. And I saw some questions also about how you actually get these opportunities. So right at the beginning of first semester, we have what's called the Industrial Roundtable, which is our largest career fair for engineering students. So there's hundreds of companies. It's kind of hectic with everyone sort of going around doing their elevator pitches and stuff. But it's also really exciting to sort of run into people and what companies they've talked to, what companies they got interviews with. And so that's really a great connection for you to get your internships and co-ops through that. So my freshman year, I did not go to the Industrial Roundtable because I was just very overwhelmed with it being at the beginning of the school year. I didn't even own business casual clothes, so I decided not to go. And then second semester, we have another career fair called Engineering Expo, which is a little bit smaller. And so there we also have companies that are coming and everyone's going around giving their elevator pitches and stuff of that sort. And so that's where I was able to get my freshman year internship. And then my sophomore year, I got it from that Industrial Roundtable, the larger one in the fall. And so there are a lot of great opportunities to connect with Purdue alumni to get those opportunities as well, especially through clubs that you're involved in. I know especially startups, many alum come back to Purdue talking about the startup that they're involved in and wanting to get students involved in that as well. And so definitely Purdue having such a large alumni presence and people definitely knowing that Purdue students work hard and are sort of trained to have that work hard mindset. People definitely love coming back and getting Purdue students to work for them. So almost everyone I know has gotten some sort of work experience in their time because you sort of get that experience, like I said before, to figure out what it is that you really want to do and also form those connections moving forward to sort of build your network and find that career path that you want to lead moving forward.
Nice. So there you have, you've heard co-ops, internships, kind of research-based internships. As Brian said, there are a lot of opportunities. Industrial Roundtable is quite a spectacle. It's quite a sight to behold. It's also usually pretty warm. So you've got a whole bunch of people in like fancy suits that are all getting real sweaty. But it's a really cool event. I even encourage our freshmen to go. I mean, Brian got an internship after her freshman year. So I encourage even our freshmen to go to Industrial Roundtable, that largest career fair. It's only a few weeks into classes. You've only been at Purdue for a few weeks, but it's a great experience. You may even get an opportunity. You never know. Don't just go out of the blue though. We have the Center for Career Opportunities that will do, that's our Career Services Center on campus. They do free resume critiques and they do workshops leading up to Industrial Roundtable. They'll do mock interviews. So they have a lot of free services you should go to first to get your resume kind of put together and all of that. Maybe do a mock interview, but go to Industrial Roundtable. Go to those career fairs that you see for your major, for for engineers in your freshman year, just to get the experience. You're going to be super nervous, which is normal, but then when you go the next time or the next year, you're going to kind of know what to expect. So you'll be hopefully a little bit less nervous. You've gone through the ropes once, so you'll know what to expect and be even more polished and ready to go at that next career fair. There are over 30 career fairs throughout the year. Each major in engineering typically has at least one. Some of them have 2 career fairs, one each semester, specifically for their students. We have Expo in the spring, which is about half the size of Industrial Roundtable. So IR in the fall will have anywhere from 300 to 400 companies. Expo in the spring will have around 100 to 200. We have our co-op specific career fair called Professional Practice Days. Those are in the spring and February. So lots and lots of opportunities. I think it was around, for the 2019-2020 academic year, according to our Career Center, there were over 1,300 unique companies that recruited at Purdue's campus, like physically came to campus. 850 of those companies were specifically recruiting engineering students. That's a lot of companies to choose from. That's unique companies, not just like, the same company visiting multiple times. And that's the only companies that we knew about. There's also a lot of companies that will just come and set up shop on campus and have their own kind of recruitment day. And they may not be scheduling that through our Career Services Center. And so that's not included in that 850 number. So lots and lots of opportunities to get in front of employers and lots of employers to get in front of for these opportunities. And as far as choosing between internships or co-ops, there's really no wrong answers. It's all about what you're looking for, what kind of experiences you want to get. Co-ops are really great for those that are pretty sure about what industry they want to work for, especially what company they might want to work for, because you're going to work 12 to 20 months with that single company and that industry over the course of your time as a student. You really can't beat the breadth and depth of experience that you're going to get with co-op within that industry. But not everybody knows what they want to do, what kind of job they want, what kind of employer they want to work for, what industry even they want to work for. So internships are a great opportunity to intern with different companies every summer and see, as Brianne was saying, like kind of what you're looking for in a position and in a company. So not only does it get you experience, but also allows you to kind of, chart out your future and what you want to do after you graduate as well. So lots of opportunities for those. What else are we seeing in the chat that we should talk about next? So real quick, what percentage of students live on campus? It's right around 50% of students continue to live on campus. Basically, as long as you continue to live on campus. So if you live on campus your freshman year and continue living on, we'll always make a spot for you if you want to continue living on campus. Gets a little dicier if you move off campus and then want to move back. There may or may not be room because we're so popular that there's not a whole lot of spaces left. But about half of our students continue living on campus. So again, that's another thing where it's really up to you and the kind of experiences you want to have. Personally, I lived on campus my entire time. I really enjoyed the community aspect in the residence halls. I was a resident assistant one of the years as well, so kind of in charge of the floor and helping foster some of those events and those opportunities to connect with your neighbors. But I've had several friends that moved off campus right after freshman year, moved into Greek life. So that really varies. You guys seeing anything else you guys want to chime in on? We've covered a lot already.
There's some questions about like things we wish we'd known about starting Purdue. So maybe like some things that we wish that we'd known going in. Does anyone want to kick that one off?
I can. I guess I wish I would have known to get involved earlier, because now I'm about to graduate and I've realized like how much like relationships that I've built with people and organizations that I've been a part of and these experiences that I've gotten through them, I've realized how important they were to me. And so getting involved earlier was probably the thing that I wish I would have known. I joined PSEF during my sophomore year. And so even if I would have literally just joined like a year earlier, it would have pushed me to join more things on campus, because through my leadership within PSEF and my experience within PSEF, being around other student leaders and things like that, it pushes you to be more involved on campus and be involved in more amazing student organizations and more amazing opportunities. And so getting involved earlier definitely pushes you to kind of make the most of your Purdue experience. That's kind of what I wish I would have known.
Nice. What other tips do we have, Brianne?
I would say the biggest thing that I learned pretty quickly was the excuse, I don't have enough time, is definitely not something that you should use. Definitely not overwhelming yourself, but just knowing that there are definitely ways to budget your time to be able to get done everything that you want to get done. And similar to Jade, I had a similar experience joining PSEF, because sometimes I would run into people had different sign-up opportunities to do different events that we were doing, and my excuse would be I don't have enough time to sign up for that, when in reality everyone who's in PSEF is doing a million different things on campus, so everyone is equally as involved, equally as busy. But if you want to do that thing that's just 1 hour out of your day, you can absolutely do that. And that's something that I have found really valuable in many different factors, is that the things I remember the most about my time at college so far has been those random things that I've just been able to do outside of just strictly academics. And so that's something that for my last year, I definitely have focused on not going too crazy with, if I need to take that 2 hours off of studying, that I definitely can. It's not going to be detrimental to my future if I choose to do this other event or hang out with my friends for an hour to give myself a break. And so I'd say that's definitely one thing to keep in mind, is to just sort of give yourself that time to do the things that you want to do, because you can absolutely spare that time in your day to do those things.
Yeah, I mean, definitely very much agree with what Brianne said. Like, you can make time for things that you're passionate about, and you should. And I think too, though, like kind of when you're thinking, there's so many opportunities across campus, and engineering is certainly not easy. I think any of us would tell you that engineering is easy, and so it's very important to take care of yourself too. Kind of like to Brianne's point, if you have to take 2 hours off studying to do an organization, sometimes you have to take 2 hours off studying to just like do something you love, whether that's like read a book or like play video games or something like that. And it's very important to take that time, because like it's somewhat easy, I guess, when you get to college and you're constantly doing things, to burn out a little bit. And so you just really have to kind of take care of yourself in doing that. And I'd say too, kind of like, I didn't realize how, I thought to be a good engineer, you had to be really, really good at math and science and stuff. But it's also very important to have, and I don't know if it was Jade or Brianne who touched on this, but to have kind of like other skills, whether that's like leadership, teamwork, communication. Those things are very, very important as well. And I think that getting involved is the best way to kind of like feed those things. And that's just something I fully did not expect. I just pictured engineering as like sitting behind a computer, just like typing away, like coding, doing stuff like that. But it's really not. Like, we're always doing stuff with other people. And so you have to learn how to do that. And Purdue will really teach you how, but I did not really expect that coming in.
Awesome. All great advice. I saw a question here about Bechtel, the Bechtel Innovation Design Center, BIDC, for short. So that's our makerspace on campus. Do any of you guys have experience with Bechtel or any of the makerspaces that are around? Teddy, I think you'd responded internally to it. Do you want to talk about some of the things maybe you've done or what you know about it? And then I think Jay, I think I saw you nod your head as well. So we'll come to you after that.
Yeah. So Bechtel is kind of the main makerspace on campus. It's a new building. It opened like maybe spring 2017. So pretty new overall, and it's absolutely incredible. It's very, very cool. And it's really cool because like whether you have a class project, a personal project, there's always TAs in Bechtel that can help you bring it to life. So like personally, I used it for my senior design project. I've used it for a couple different personal projects throughout the years, and it's very nice to kind of have support from people there to show you how to use like whether it has all kinds of like mills and water jets and lathes, things like that you might not entirely know how to use. And so there's always people who can help you do it. And my roommate Jordan, so he's currently working for Spotify, but he got a minor in electronic art. He was super, super passionate about kind of the intersection of engineering and art. And so he would use Bechtel all the time to make like different light up signs for our walls and stuff. Like he would just go and make stuff. And so it's literally so cool because he would just always come home with something new, something that none of the rest of us understood how it worked. But that really was kind of his passion, and he used that passion. He actually worked on the Spotify Wrapped feature, if you guys are familiar with it. It's basically just like a share card on social media, very artistic, and he got the job and got that role because of kind of his minor and his passion. And not to brag too much about him, but his work got shared 30 million times. Actually, no, not 30, 300 million times on social media, whether between Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And so he did that right out of Purdue. And it was all because he used Bechtel and used these kind of personal spaces to pursue what he really loved. So very cool. And then Jade, I think you had stuff to add too.
Yeah, and I can add on that Jordan is an amazing human being. So I used Bechtel Innovation Design Center mostly through EPICS, and I also use the EPICS design spaces in the basement of Armstrong, the Hall of Engineering here on campus, where EPICS is kind of like headquartered. So as I was building my project for EPICS, which happened to be a butterfly-shaped donation box for the local zoo, it was interactive, so it had like Arduino and different coding. So it would, like, when you would donate money, it would light up and say facts about butterfly conservation. And so we couldn't really cut out like plexiglass, fiberglass in the shape of a butterfly on our own, and so we had to use a water jet actually at Bechtel to kind of cut that shape out. And there, like Teddy said, there are people there to help you do that. Like, you're definitely not on your own. But I was a freshman doing that and like 3D printing and things like that for my EPICS project. And so there's also a maker space in the basement, like I said, of Armstrong for EPICS students. And so there are various machines, wood and things down there as well. Kind of right across the hall from that is the 3D printing club office. And so there are a bunch of 3D printers down there, and you don't have to be part of the 3D printing club to be 3D printing in there. And so you can join the club and pay a fee kind of up front, and you have unlimited access to the 3D printers in there. Or if you're just a student, you can kind of go in there, and there are literally TAs dedicated to that. And you can just kind of print whatever you want for whatever cent amount is per gram or whatever of plastic. And so I know people that kind of work in there, whether it's for projects or they want to make an ornament for their mom for Christmas. And so you can kind of do a variety of things with the kind of the resource spaces on campus.
Yeah, Bechtel is an awesome facility. So if you ever have a chance to visit campus, or if you come in the fall, definitely take a tour at least, kind of see what all they have to offer. Lots of really cool things with laser cutters, water cutters, milling machines, welding studio. They have an automotive paint studio, so they can paint a car. So lots of really cool things in Bechtel, and it's basically, their mission is just for student projects. It's not really supposed to be for class projects. It's supposed to be for just personal projects or projects as part of one of the student orgs. So really kind of a student-driven space, not a class-driven space, if you will. I actually, even as a staff member of Purdue, I'm a member of the 3D Print Club, which is down in the basement of Armstrong Hall. There's a whole bunch of 3D printers down there. Just pay dues for the year, and I get free prints on all of the 3D printers except for their SLA printers, the resin. Those you still have to pay for based on how much resin you use, but those are amazing and they're so precise. It's very cool. So lots of really cool spaces to make things across campus. Mechanical engineering even has the toy design class. So I know we've got a couple mechanical engineers. Anybody want to talk about toy design and the makerspace that they've got for that? Teddy, I see snaps.
Yeah, I can talk about it. So something I also didn't expect, kind of the earlier question coming into Purdue, was how many fun, just kind of random classes that there are that you can take. And one of them within mechanical engineering is toy design. So it's ME 444. And basically you spend the entire semester designing and then prototyping a toy. And then you ultimately pitch your toy to companies like Hasbro and Mattel, or at least that's the way it's been in years past. I'm not positive how it worked during COVID, but it's super fun. If you go into the mechanical engineering building, there's a toy museum that actually displays all the past projects. My personal favorite one is a Purdue Rock'em Sock'em robot where Purdue Pete is fighting IU's mascot. It's super fun. I was in the sophomore design lab with the student who was building that one. We were in there until 2:30 one night. I was working on my sophomore design. He was working on that. And I think it's just a great example of a really fun class that you can take. Jade or Brianne, do you guys have any other kind of fun classes within, I guess, mechanical for Brianne or BME for Jade that you've taken or looking to take?
Something that I like about ME that Teddy just sort of touched upon is the sophomore design class, as well as all engineering majors have a senior design class. And so that's where you really do get the hands-on project experience where you're sort of putting together the things that you've learned in your classes to actually produce something. And so that's something that I really like, is having that opportunity to have hands-on work, not just being able to take a test. So as well as the different labs that are within classes. So right now I'm in a machine design class. And for one of our labs, we took apart a KitchenAid mixer and we're looking at all the insides of it and how it works and stuff. And even though it was just kind of silly looking at a mixer, it was also pretty cool to actually be looking at the things that are part of your real life and getting that hands-on experience to sort of understand the engineering that went behind it, because there is engineering sort of everywhere, as well as with the different design classes where you sort of have that creativity to do a project that you're interested in. So for my sophomore design, we designed training wheels. So that's something that was pretty fun, being able to actually go through the whole engineering process of having a concept, prototype, different evaluations of how you can improve it moving forward, and then having that final production at the end is a really great experience to sort of understand how those processes work in industry as well.
Jade, how about you? Did you have any fun BME classes? Is that kind of an oxymoron, or are there any like maybe classes you didn't expect? Or you can also talk, I don't know if you know much about the new annex you guys just got to on your building. Some cool growth there too.
Oh, I definitely know about the annex. So my fun BME classes are going to sound really nerdy because they're really fun to me, but they're probably not going to sound fun to anybody else. But we are required to take BME 256, which is a cardiovascular modeling class. So as you're learning literally about the intricacies of the cardiovascular system, about like all your arteries, veins, and your heart and everything, on the side you're doing hypothetical problem modeling. And so we did a giant code and report on this hypothetical problem of a double intra-aortic balloon. And so a common surgery now is putting in a balloon angioplasty, which you put in a balloon in your aorta if you have a blockage. But we did the hypothetical problem of having double balloon and kind of going around that, and like a lot of fun problems, but it was really fun learning about things and kind of making the connection between the clinical world and engineering, and which is the point of BME. So that class was really fun. I also took BME is one of those majors that doesn't allow you to like I guess officially concentrate on your diploma, but through electives they allow you to kind of specialize your degree. And so my specialization is kind of tissue engineering, and so I took a lot of tissue engineering classes, and so I learned about all these organ on chip, like organs outside of the body and things like that. And so that was like amazingly fun for me. And then I also, now that I'm in my second semester senior year, I have a little bit more room, and I also took some summer classes. So I'm currently in oceanography and literally learning about whales. So a variety of like electives that you can take if you kind of take summer classes and get your classes out of the way. But EAPS 104, EAPS 104, oceanography is a pretty popular class that honestly a lot of engineers take. So.
And just a super quick plug, there's a really fun class that freshmen can take called How Stuff Works. I will defend this class and advocate for it until the day I die. I was a student in it, and then I taught it for 4 semesters, but basically there's a lab and a lecture in it. And in the lab class, or in the lecture class, excuse me, they bring in a new Purdue mechanical engineer from industry every week. So they come in and they talk about like what it is to work for like 3M, GE Aviation, companies like that. And then in the lab, you just take something new apart. So you take apart like power drills, Nerf guns, toasters, 2-stroke engines, just like very fun things to see how they work. And I think it's super fun to like kind of keep that engineering interest alive. You're doing a lot of math and science and stuff in engineering, and sometimes, you know, you lose sight a little bit of why you like engineering. And so I think it's a great class to take it apart. And highly recommend taking that. So that's ME 199, How Stuff Works, if anyone is interested in it, but it's super fun.
Awesome. Kind of changing gear a little bit. So we've been talking all about the raw Purdue. Here's why we're great. Here's all the cool things to do. There was a really interesting question that came in of like, what are some of the downsides of Purdue? Not necessarily to like rag on Purdue, but maybe just to try to account for or expect come fall. I mean, are there any things that maybe were like you didn't expect that you've had to accommodate? I know one of the common questions we get, and I saw tonight, was How do you ever get used to the cold if you're not from a cold area? So what are some of those things that you can think of, and like maybe how did you accommodate it, or was there something that really made it not so much of a downside, or is maybe just a super bummer?
I have one. So the first one being definitely the cold. I'm from the Midwest, but I didn't expect the wind or the amount of snow. St. Louis is just like a little bit west and south, but up here you get a little bit of Lake Michigan effect, and so a little bit more snow than usual and a little bit more wind. And so I didn't fully expect that, but definitely a longer coat and a pair of snow boots will do you fine. But also another one is 7:30 a.m. classes. A lot of my friends at other universities, their earliest class that you can take is 8 a.m. But Purdue, they run at the 30 mark, and so classes start at the 30 mark of every hour. And so 7:30 a.m. labs, which are often unavoidable your freshman year just because they're big classes. That's when the section is. Those weren't the greatest on Friday mornings or Monday mornings. And so they're a little bit unavoidable, but that is something to look out for. You might have to set your alarm a little bit more early than you do now.
Anything else anyone can think of?
I would say something that is definitely not unique to Purdue, but probably just the transition to college in general, is just sort of the transition from being in high school, getting good grades on everything, maybe even being like a gifted student in your class, and then coming to college and realizing that there are a lot of other gifted students as well. And you may not be above average on every test. And that's just sort of something that you have to just be okay with, that you're not going to be doing great on every single thing like it may have been in the past. And so I'd say that's definitely a transition. But something that I think Purdue has that sort of sets us apart is the resources that we have available to you. If you do need help in any sort of class that you may be struggling with, especially in the first year classes that you're taking, especially if it's a large lecture hall. We always have recitation classes where it's a smaller group of students and you're with a TA going through examples or reviewing the things that you've learned in your lecture. And so you're still able to get that additional help if you don't want to raise your hand in lecture, which I am definitely not the type of person to raise my hand in a large lecture hall. But you're able to get that sort of individualized assistance that you need, as well as in some of those larger lectures, we have what's called supplemental instruction sessions, which are optional review sessions, which are also led by a TA. And that's something that I would say is most comparable to sort of a high school style class, where you're being taught through examples, going through the different things that you have, and being able to get your questions answered real time as they're going through the topics. As well as office hours that all professors and TAs have available to you, which is a great resource to be able to get those questions answered, which has also, in my opinion, been sort of a perk of COVID changes, is having office hours on Zoom is super easy to join. If I run into a question on my homework and I need to get some assistance on that, I always just look at the office hour schedule and there's almost always someone that's available at that time. So I can just hop on Zoom and get that question answered and then keep working on my homework. And if I run into a question 10 minutes later, I can hop back on the Zoom again rather than having to go to an actual office and then going back to it. So that's definitely been a perk of the transition to the online world, but definitely having so many resources available to you. If you are struggling, you're more than prepared to sort of catch back up.
Awesome. Teddy, anything else to add on that of things to expect or account for as incoming freshmen at Purdue?
I think just one of the big things, I think Purdue has just a phenomenal number of resources, career opportunities, advising, things like that. But you really have to go and get them when you come here. They're not going to come to you as much, and so you have to kind of seek them out. And so just to kind of, echo the points that other people have said, I think it's very important to come in and have an idea of kind of like the areas that you need help and then be willing to reach out for them. Because like Purdue has so many resources about them, but like frankly, they're not always the best communicated about. And so just going and seeking them out will really benefit you. So like the Center for Career Opportunities is great. You should look that up. Women in Engineering program, Minority Engineering program. There's a lot of ways to help students, but you have to go to them. They're not really going to come to you, and that's kind of different than high school.
Nice. Been going through a lot of the questions in here. Oh, I totally just lost my train of thought. Sorry, everyone. So we've gone through intramurals. Is there any, I feel like I'm missing something with a student life aspect. Like there's something that we're missing. What am I forgetting? We've talked epics, intramurals. We talked about outdoor adventure club, that sort of a thing.
Maybe just like favorite memories or something. Like, you know, we talked about like fun things that have happened, but like maybe some favorite memories that stand out, because like we're pretty old in general. So I'm
yeah,
sure
we're an aged group in this session.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's do that. Favorite memories of your time as a Purdue Boilermaker. Who wants to go first? Nobody has any favorite memories? It's all just been terrible?
I guess I can start.
Kick us off, Teddy.
Okay, so I asked the question and then I'm answering it first. I'm so sorry. But so I guess first memory, obviously the Ohio State game that I talked about was very special. But not to get like too sentimental, but I think one of my favorite memories, it was like right when COVID started. And so we were on quarantine. It was me and my 3 roommates just like in our house. And we started doing what we called roomie hour. So we would spend 1 hour a day. My roommate Mark has like the craziest brain, or a former roommate Mark has like the craziest brain of any person I've ever met. And he came up with the idea to just do a new activity together every day for 1 hour because we were just trapped inside. So this included like a Nerf gun kind of like target shooting practice, included eating like as much Arby's as we possibly could. There was so many different just crazy ideas that he came up with. But it was really special because I think like when we, as you know, older students, we have a lot of things on our plate, and you don't ever really slow down to just like think and spend time with the people that you love. And so it was very cool for me to just like finally have like a built-in hour every day that the 4 of us would spend together, and absolutely love that and like remember that more than any, and I think Brian said this earlier, but more than any exam or any, you know, test or anything academic that I've ever spent. So that was great. Does anyone else have any other kind of favorite ones?
It is extremely hard to narrow it down. The first one that pops into my mind, just because you talked about the Ohio State game, is the Purdue basketball versus Virginia game, the year after we lost to them in this Elite Eight, Sweet 16. I literally cannot remember. I should. I'm apparently a fake fan. But no, the next year after they won the NCAA championship, after we lost to them, they came to Mackey and we like double or tripled their score. We absolutely put them down, and my throat has never hurt so bad in my life. Like everyone was screaming. It was the most insane game of my life. And I probably won't ever forget it. But there are so many other memories that I can't narrow it down to one at all. It's been a good 4 years.
I would say similarly in how I mentioned it before, the best memories, it's hard to think of because it is all sort of the random things that aren't planned or anything really in particular. But I would say some of my favorite memories from this year were for PSEF. Recently, we were able to, when we had a reading day, so we didn't have class that day, we just met up and had a picnic on Slater Hill, and everyone was together. We were able to just play catch and just sort of sit outside and just be together. And it was the first time that a lot of people saw each other in person for the semester. And so that was a really great memory to sort of have that camaraderie of the club sort of coming back after seeing each other via computer for so long. So that has definitely been one of my fondest memories from this semester for sure. As well as I've just started doing what's called Friday Night Lights, where basically we just go through academic buildings and turn the lights off in all the classrooms on Fridays so that they're off for the weekends to save energy. And even though it's literally just going around to classrooms and turning off lights, I do it with a few friends, and we're able to just sort of explore different buildings that we don't normally go to, and just sort of goof around as we're walking through these buildings. And even though it's silly and it's literally just turning off lights, that's been some of my greatest memories, just sort of a great end to the week, finishing your homework and then just being able to walk around and hang out.
Awesome. I've been seeing several questions about, is there this specific activity or this specific club, this specific thing? So one of the things I recommend looking up is if you go to boilerlink.purdue.edu, I can put it in the announcements here. That is our student org database. Sorry, I accidentally triggered my music in my ear with my earbuds. Boilerlink.purdue.edu is our student org and event database, and even students out at Purdue, you can go on there and view all of the things. So for organizations, you can search by keyword, you can do alphabetical lists. There's almost 1,000, if not a little over 1,000 student orgs. It kind of varies from year to year as we deactivate old clubs. But there's a lot to look for. So that's a great resource to try to find, to see, is there do they have what it is that you're interested in getting involved in? And the answer is probably yes, with so many to choose from. But boilerlink.purdue.edu, that's a great place to go to see all the different clubs, organizations. It even has contact info for the clubs. If you want to reach out to them, you can now just to find out more about them. We also have a variety of info fairs. If you do Boiler Gold Rush, there's probably going to be an info fair during that of different clubs and organizations setting up booths. There's also usually one of the first couple weeks of classes, usually set up around the union on campus. You'll get to see booths from a lot of different clubs. So lots of opportunities for what we call those call outs. It's also a great time to get a lot of free food. A lot of these clubs and organizations, when they do their call outs, they'll have free pizza, free Qdoba, something like that. We even, I don't know if we still do, but we used to have the free food club, which would monitor all these call outs. They had they would be on GroupMe or some other group app, and they would say, hey, the chess club is having their call out tonight. They're having free pizza, let's all go. And so the free food club was literally people would go to all these things just for the food. It's a great way to save money and just kind of have some cool stories. We're talking about cool stories, just saying hey, I went to the chess club just for the food. So lots of really cool things. So definitely check out Boilerlink to see about those specific organizations. So let's talk about, we had one question about so is Purdue a party school? What's the campus safety aspect like? Does anybody want to talk about one or both of those sides of Purdue, the party scene, the safety scene? Any takers on that? Jade, go ahead.
Yeah, I can. So usually how we answer this question is just saying it's available there if you want it. But if you are not one that wants to partake in said activities, you don't have to and you won't be missing out. It is a massive campus. There are things to do if that is not what you want to do on a Saturday night. And that being said, also, Purdue is ranked safest Big Ten campus, safest campus in Indiana, and I think it's ranked in the top 10 in the country, safest in the country. And as a female, I have probably only felt unsafe once walking on this campus in the last 4 years. Everywhere you go, you can't go somewhere without seeing a blue light on campus, which is basically they're a bunch of help buttons. IDs is the Purdue police hotline, and also Safe Walk, which is basically people that dedicate their time on during the night. If you feel unsafe, they will literally come to you and walk with you. In addition, a huge perk to going to school in Indiana. Indiana has the Indiana Lifeline Law, which means that if one student is participating in underage drinking or underage activities, and they need help for a friend, they can call the police and they can't get in trouble for that, for being underage, for helping their friend. And so it's a very safe campus in general. And that is something that my parents felt very comfortable sending me to. The reason why they felt comfortable sending me here. And I've had, I've given countless tours to dads and their daughters, and moms and their daughters, and even sons. And I've had people pull me aside and say, hey, be honest, is this a safe campus? And no doubt in my mind, can I say yes? And so campus safety is definitely a high priority here. We have our own Purdue Fire Department and Police Department. And so another thing, if you need an ambulance, you better be calling the Purdue Fire Department, because the ambulance there are free. And so if you call West Lafayette, they're not. And so definitely large resources. And
there are also opportunities for, I guess, certain types of fun if you desire it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jade. That was a very diplomatic way of putting the party scene on campus, I will say. I think that Purdue is really good at having that balance. Like, we're not a party school, but our students also know how to be good students and to have fun. And whatever that means for each student, as far as it could just be fun, could just be hanging out, I don't know, ice cream joint, whatever. But our students are really good about having the best of both worlds. I'll just put it that way, of having a very vibrant and enriching social life for those that want to have a very vibrant and enriching social life, and also being really good students that are well-rounded. I was a very outgoing student, involved in a lot of different things, a lot of different clubs. I had a random roommate one year, though, who was like the polar opposite of me, would only leave their room to go to his classes and then come back, or go to the dining court and come back, but would once a week get together with friends for an activity, and that was all that he needed. And I'm pretty sure he went on to work for NASA, which is awesome. So wherever you fall on that, of if you want to have like a tight knit group of friends that you just kind of do like a couple things, you can do that. If you want to just like really put yourself out there and try a whole lots of different like clubs, organizations, and we've got like cultural fairs and food festivals. There's just so much opportunity for anyone that comes here. And so with 8 minutes left, that kind of leads me to like the question I always ask at the end of our presentations is, why was Purdue the right fit for you? What was it about Purdue that brought you here, and obviously has kept you here? You know, what was that checklist of things that you were looking for in a school, and how did Purdue fit those? I also want to take it a step further. Did you know that you wanted to come to Purdue? When, or was it kind of a surprise? When did that kind of hit for you guys too? So let's kind of go down the list here. So Brianne, I guess we'll start with you. Go back to our alphabetical order. What was it about Purdue that made it the right fit for you, and when did you kind of realize that?
Yeah, so before I toured Purdue, I don't know why I thought that I wasn't gonna like it. I think it might just be the colors threw me off or something like that, but for some reason I was like, I'm just gonna tour Purdue just to check it off the list before I make my decision. And then when I came to campus, just from talking to students and understanding that sort of the atmosphere here is not where students are in competition with one another, where they have to do all these involvements just so that they can put it on their resume and compete with everyone else, and can only study so that they have the highest GPA to get the jobs that they want. I could tell by Purdue's atmosphere that students were here focusing on their academics, but also getting involved in those things that they really wanted to do and were really passionate about, rather than just something to put on your resume. And I think that really is a telltale sign of just the culture that we have at Purdue, where it's not something that's competitive, where everyone's ranked and there's in the classes and there's only a certain amount of A's. Like, you get basically what the work you put in is the grade that you get and that you deserve. And so I think that students really have that mindset of being able to work together rather than in competition with one another. I am always studying with other students now. I can barely do anything on my own, just because it is such a tight-knit community where people are here to help each other and sort of brainstorm on things to work with. And professors even encourage that as well, for you to work with other students rather than sort of being in competition with them. And something that I had also mentioned previously that is something that sort of drew me to Purdue, and is the reason why I know it's been the right fit for me, is because of just the opportunity that we have to not just develop as a student, but to develop in many different ways. And I think that also is an attest to the culture of everyone wants to see people develop professionally and be fully prepared in all aspects of life by the time they graduate, to enter the real world and sort of face whatever career path it is that they want to be in moving forward. And I think Purdue really sets us up not just to be good students, but to be great engineers and to be great assets to a company or research or a startup or wherever you see yourself in the future. It's not just one path that you can take. It's really everyone has their individualized path and is excited to see everyone sort of reach that final goal in the end, and to help each other reach that final goal. And so that's something that I that drew me to Purdue, despite thinking that I wouldn't like it. But as soon as I came to campus and I talked to students, I knew 100% that it was the right place for me. And I have never had any sense of doubt, because I know that this has been a really sort of home away from home, which is why I haven't really felt homesick at all, is because I've had such a great community and great people here to encourage me to sort of reach wherever I want to be by the time I graduate.
Awesome, thanks. Jade, how about you? What was ticking the boxes for Purdue for you?
Yeah, so I actually kind of knew that I was going to Purdue kind of before I came. I had teachers that went to Purdue. Again, I'm from around St. Louis, and they did not have like enough to say about Purdue. Like it was insane. And so they really excited for me to visit, and I came, and I pretty much knew. And so the two main reasons why I originally came to Purdue is one, well, I guess three main reasons. One, most of the first year engineering professors have engineering education degrees, and Purdue's kind of, I guess, kind of one of the first schools, kind of the pioneer schools to have that, along with women engineering and minority engineering, just as a side note. And so I knew that as I was learning how to be an engineer from my first year engineering professors, they were also learning from me on how to better teach engineers. So I knew I was getting literally the best education that I could be getting. And then also, I didn't have engineering classes in high school. I didn't know how to be an engineer. I barely even knew what an engineer was, what an engineer did. And so having that first year engineering program, I knew I wanted to go BME. And so I didn't use first year engineering to kind of decide which engineering I wanted. I kind of used it as a way to figure out how to be an engineer before I applied it to, in my case, the human body. And so that allowed me to really grow as a student and grow as an engineer. And then I guess the third reason would be the immense amount of opportunities here, whether it be resources for classes, like all the Innovation Design Center stuff that we talked about, like anything I need for any class, like it's there, but also the social aspect as well, and that Brianne touched on. There are so many opportunities here to meet amazing people, amazing alumni, amazing prospective students, and just get involved in it. I've had the best 4 years here because of all the opportunities that Purdue has given me, both academically, but also socially and professionally. So.
Awesome. Teddy, that leaves you.
Yeah, I think these guys did a phenomenal job of covering it, and so I'll try not to hit any of the same points that they did. But I think my first reason is Purdue is, top 10 in nearly every engineering discipline, and you guys know that. But I think that's important, certainly, but I think that Purdue has way less ego than a lot of other top schools have. I think you find the students here, and I don't know if that's because of kind of the collaborative aspects. Maybe it's the fact that we're in the Midwest, or that we're the largest school in like the top 10 engineering undergraduate schools, but there's just so much less ego. And I came from like a pretty small town with like not a whole lot of resources or engineering resources. And so it was nice for me to come in here and not really, I don't know, feel left out or feel like I wasn't good enough or anything like that. And then my second reason, so my backup to being an engineer was being an English teacher. That's probably what I'm most passionate about. I love books. I want to open a bookstore someday. And when I was looking at schools, most schools were kind of like, we're going to make you a great technical engineer. We're going to give you great technical skills. But when I came to Purdue, it was like, we're going to give you great technical skills, but we're also going to teach you how to, work in a team, how to communicate, how to lead. And certainly in all of my industrial experiences, I found those things to be way more important. And I just think like, when you're comparing across schools, sometimes they look pretty similar, and like, what they're presenting is pretty similar. And that just very much stood out for me. And I think it really speaks to kind of the focus at Purdue on not just preparing students to be good engineers, but good engineers in industry who can work with other people. And I'll say too, like the alumni network is super special. When I did an internship in Seattle, and I was literally on a mountain in Seattle, and I was like, I'd never been west of Colorado, and I was just going up it. And there was 4 Purdue alums who had worked for Microsoft who were coming down the mountain at the same time. Like I knew pretty much no one going in. I had one friend. And so it was very cool for me to kind of have a little bit of a home away from home there, because we just stopped and chatted for, I don't know, probably 30 minutes just about, Purdue and how things were. So it was a very special experience for me. And that's something you don't really expect until you get in here. But people who go to Purdue are very, very passionate, and they won't hesitate to shout boiler up at you wherever you are.
Awesome. Well, that puts us right at time. So just a couple things as we look forward. Again, we have one more Engineering Live broadcast. It'll be a week from today, next Tuesday, the 27th from 7 to 9 p.m., same time as always. It's our last minute Q&A, so if you have any last lingering questions before that May 1 deadline to commit to Purdue or not, feel free to tune in, or if you've already committed and just have some other questions before we start in the fall, feel free to hop on. We'll have several of our current students on for that. If you are wanting to visit or have a visit planned or trying to figure out how to visit, whether it's before May 1 or sometime this summer, reach out to us. You can email our office, the Office of Future Engineers. It's future-engineers@purdue.edu. You can also go to PSEF's website. They have a contact form. You can see if you can get an engineering tour guide. So our campus is official, it's not closed to visitors. We have no formal programs on campus, any formal events on campus, but if you happen to be in the area and want to walk across campus, you can do so. Our buildings are open. You'll just need to wear masks in our buildings. We still have a mask mandate on our campus. But if you have the opportunity to visit campus, I would recommend doing so in a safe manner if it's possible for you. If you're not able to visit campus for whatever reason, that's where our students are really shine. They can help give you the perspective of campus through their eyes. So you can kind of really see what it's like on the ground. So again, reach out to our office, future-engineers@purdue.edu. Reach out to PSEF, engineering.purdue.edu/PSEF, PSEF, or you can just Google Purdue PSEF. You have two fantastic resources for learning more about Purdue, answering questions. We had a lot come in tonight. I know we didn't get to several of them. So if you have any other questions, reach out to both our office, to PSEF. We're happy to help any way we can in these final weeks before you have to make that decision. So with that, I think we're going to sign off for tonight. So thanks to our panelists. We had Brianne Towers with Mechanical Engineering, Jade Weber with Biomedical Engineering, Teddy with Mechanical Engineering as well, and then myself, Ari Swartz, the Assistant Director for the office. Thanks to you all for tuning in. Thanks for my panelists for spending some time tonight to talk about your experiences, and hope everyone has a great night or day wherever you're at. Boiler up and stay safe. See you, everyone.